Hey, I'm Mike. I'm a filmmaker. I'm going to break down one of the scenes from one of my documentary films. The film is called Mavuto, The Forgotten Women. We filmed it in Malawi, and it is about cervical cancer in Malawi, which is still a problem in many areas of the world, but becoming less of a problem as we get to roll out the HPV vaccine. So this scene is a little different from some of the other ones I've shown because the show format, right, is teaser. We have a teaser for what's coming up in the show, and then we have the intro, and then the film starts, right? But for this film, I used the teaser to actually set up the problem so that I didn't need to do that in the opening scene of the film. So for this one, we're going to show the teaser, and then I'll skip the opening, and then we will go over the opening scene of the film. You can stream the film on PBS. There's a link below right now, and let's go ahead and watch it, and then we'll come back, watch it again, and I'll talk through how we made the film.
The country of Malawi is fighting a health crisis. Women are dying from a preventable disease.
Malawi has the #1 incidence of cervical cancer in the world.
Cervical cancer is one of the most deadly, but also one of the most preventable cancers in women.
It's a very big problem for many reasons. Lack of education that there is a cervix and it needs to be screened. Lack of access to screening facilities. HPV prevalence is high.
Virtually all cases of cervical cancer are caused by the HPV virus. The HPV vaccine can prevent the disease, but it's not readily available in Malawi. The HPV virus is spread through sexual contact.
Women who are unaware of that fact aren't aware they should be using condoms. Maybe nobody's educating them that if you sleep with more people, you have more chance of having this disease. So there's a high HPV prevalence.
If a woman is not screened regularly, the HPV virus can become a problem.
A big problem, a cancer.
Okay, so that's the teaser real quick. We'll get to the opening scene in a second, but that sets up the problem, right? There's a lot of info to take in there. There's a lot to take in. But if you watch it, if you can get through it, that sets up the problem. And then we can come into the opening scene, which is a little, much slower scene and kind of introduces some of our main characters. And in the opening scene there, so we know it's going to be voiceover in the film. The voiceover is by the amazing Lisa Ling. And we've been introduced to one of our experts, the doctor there.
Malawi is a country in Central East Africa. Its economy is based on agriculture. The Chiola district is home to a number of tea plantations. And for many Malawians, growing food on small plots of land is their only source of income.
Talimako tomato ndi mafektable ngati mpiro nditodi ndimazipasa nthawi kuteroko ndimatha mwina nkunyamuka filiko loko mbanda kucha ya usiku nkubwera nkuthirira katero ndimapita ndikawaphikire mayi ngati chithandizo kuti swana apite ku school ndikateronso ndimapezeka kuti ndikubwereranso konkuno mwina nkuzamalizisa kantchito nthawi ina pamakwananso nthawi ya lunch so ndimayesesa kuti kuona 10 o'clock kapena 11 o'clock nthamangire patient ndikathe kumuona kuti kodi aliko bwanji ndikatenso kutanganidwa kupanga zina za pakhomo nthawi inaso ndizipase mita yotinso ndithenso kubwera kuno kugwira ntchito kulinga kuti ndisangokhala nanga ndipanga bwanji ndithu.
Ndinazo feti atatu wankulu anizaga 15 wachiwiri chino cha 12 aitatu anizaga 3 ndi miyezi 11 masesa nyumba phika ndiwo phika nsima kudya kutereka madzi osamba kusamba hai nonga matabona ngwe panadusa miezi 3 ndingosamba ndira mina ndipite ndikatani kale singawo fuka chikhalire ngasinala sinabe ndachitabu zimene ngakhanira madinji ngakapanga zafara zimagwira kumbo pamaipo ngosweka mama ngati sampaina basi maina wani papa mama umakhala utaluma ntalikira umasiyani kuti ndikakwera ngakakuli ndakwera panja sinimaona zinthu sinimasamba kwambiri muna ngakakuli ndaenda wapansi kwa kumamo ndikuti ngabomere kuli mataya magazi wangu.
Junior uzuri kusukuma ile kwa bwanje.
Nawe ngabwino.
Sono mmakalaka bwanje mutazama isa skole mazakhala ndani.
Mazakhala dokota.
Nangatadala soma ile kwa bwanje ku school.
Ile kabwino.
Ayo kwa bwino? Nangeni mmakaka mtazakila chiro ndakagana.
Nesi. Nesi.
Mafamba ka nesi. Aya chabwino. Ulimpika school
Angaim. Nafanya kanda.
Inu from zakai ndani.
Azaji nyama. Nyama jaluma.
Okay, so that's the opening scene. It's all about getting to know Alice, Jacob, and their family. And if you watch the teaser, you're going to kind of put two and two together, and you're going to know that Alice is going to have cervical cancer, and she'll be the main patient story. And I really wanted to get the viewer to relate to this family, to connect to this family, because cervical cancer, like that's a big subject. And so to try and tell a story about cervical cancer, right, this big subject and big problem, let's see how specific we can get. And so Alice, her family is one of the main characters, and then the doctor that we follow is one of the main characters, and a nurse is also one of the main characters in the film. For this film, we had a crew of 3. It was myself, I was the director, we had Eric as the DP, and we had Katura as the field producer. Katura basically handled scheduling everything for this, making sure we had a ride, making sure if we needed to do interviews that we could interview those people, helping us get locations, helping us with translation. She did an amazing job. And Eric I had worked with for a few years, and he is probably the best DP I have worked with. He's got an incredible visual eye. So for this, we decided to do one camera for the majority of the filming. For the interviews, we did a 2-camera setup, but for the majority of the filming, we did one camera. Eric was running the camera, and I was running sound into sound devices, Mixpre 3, and the main mic I was using was Sennheiser 416, and then for interviews, we used an Audio-Technica 4053B. So let's go back and watch the opening scene, and let's talk about it a little bit.
Malawi is a country in Central East Africa. Its economy is based on agriculture. The Chiola district is home to a number of tea plantations. And for many Malawians, growing food on small plots of land is their only source of income.
So this is basically just, let's visually show you where we are in the world and use the voiceover to give you a little bit more information about where these people live and about the country of Malawi. I love the shots of the tea plantations there are just amazing.
Kalimako tomato ndi mafectable ngati mpiru nditodi.
So a couple things I wanted to establish here is that this is a different way of life, right? Like he's a small farmer. This is how he feeds his family. I wanted to show what that work looked like. And I also wanted to show just how hardworking he and his family are. So waking up at 3 a.m. to start work and then taking care of all the chores, feeding, making lunch and all that.
Ndimazipasa nthawi kuteroko ndimatha mwina nkunyamuka filiko loko mbanda kucha ya usiku nkubwera nkuthirira. Katero ndimapita ndikawaphikire mayi ngati chithandizo kuti ana apite ku school ndikateronso ndimapezeka kuti ndikubwereranso konkuno mwina nkuzamalizisa kantchito nthawi ina pamakwananso nthawi ya lunch so ndimayesesa kuti kuona 10 o'clock kapena 11 o'clock nthamangire patient ndikathe kumuona kuti kodi aliko bwanji ndikathenso kutanganidwa kupanga zina za pakhomo nthawi inanso ndizipase mita yotinso ndithenso kubwera kuno kugwira ntchito kulinga kuti ndisangokhala nanga ndipanga bwanji chithu.
So we've established Jacob a little bit. He's talked about what he does, what his life is like, and now we're going to go to the family. We cut to a shot of their house. This is their home. Most homes around this area are made of mud brick. Most of them don't last too long. They may last a few years and then they need to be rebuilt. So that visually you can kind of see what it's like where this family lives.
Ndinarifeti atatu wankulu anizaka 15 wachiwiri chino cha 12 aitatu anizaka 3 ni miyezi 11.
So this is not only introducing Alice, her children, but also helping you realize, okay, she's 30 and her oldest is 15. So she started as a mother at 15 years old.
Pasesa nyumba, piga ndio, piga nsima kuja, tega mazi kusamba. Hai nonga matabona ngwe. Panadusania zitatu ndingosamba ndila mina libile nikatani kele singawo. Fuka dikadile ngasinara sinabe dakika buzimene.
So one thing to mention real quick here, our translator was also the nurse that helped take care of Alice. And before we came out and did the filming with Alice at her home, we talked to the nurse. Medical things, the idea of being really sick, of death, is a very private thing in most cultures, and it certainly is in Malawi. And so we talked to her and asked, if we could approach this, if this was a subject. Our translator and the nurse said, this is something that probably is not going to be comfortable for most people to talk about. We talked through it, and she broached these subjects that are very touchy, very difficult to talk about. And she did it in such a great way that we were able to capture this very intimate story of this family and of Alice. That's something that can be very difficult to do. Overall, our production, we had, I think it was about a week, maybe a week and a half, and we only had 2 days to film with Alice. From where we were staying in the hospital compound, it was about 45 minutes to drive to the place, where then we had to hike maybe 15, 20 minutes down to Alice's house. So that gives you an idea of the schedule and what it was like when we were filming here. It was very windy. So I had the 416. I didn't have a blimp, so we only had a dead cat on the 416, and I really had to cut a lot of low frequencies in order to get clean sound. So it was not the easiest filming situation, but I think we did a pretty good job. Some of the cutting was a little bit more difficult because we had such limited time, and it was only one main camera that we were filming with. So it was a little harder to edit, but I think it turned out pretty good. Let's keep watching. So this shot sequence of these two shots is a shot of people hiking out from where Alice lives up to the road, where then you can start to either walk, or if you have money, you might be able to catch a motorbike to the hospital. And I would cut from a wide shot to a close up, or a wide, medium, close. For this one though, I wanted to show just how far the hike was. So I started with this tighter shot, and then we come to a wide shot, just so hopefully the audience really gets what it's like to hike from Alice's house, up to the road.
Kuna kaunda ndo hapa soka kwa mama. Ndio ngambwa mimi kuima time kasi wangu.
It's one of those examples where, okay, the rule is you should do from a wide, right, to a medium, to a close up. But once you know the rule, you can break it in if it makes sense. It's got to make sense. You got to know why you're breaking the rule, but you can totally break the rules. And then we're coming into the scene where I love the scene because you can see how shy and kind of embarrassed the kids are, especially the teenagers, to be on camera. And I think it's so relatable. I'm not a parent, but I would think that parents, especially of teenagers, hopefully can relate to this and connect to this family through this scene.
Junior ulikusukuma ilikuwa bwanje.
Na wewe ngabwe.
Sono mmakalaka bwanje mutazama hizo skulu mazakanda.
Naza kadogo da.
Nangatadala soma ilikuwa bwanje ku skulu.
Ilikuwa bwino.
Ilikuwa bwino? Nangeni mmakaka mutazakira chiro ndilaganda.
Nesi. Nesi.
Mafamba ka nesi.
So this is an example of where she was so kind of shy and embarrassed to talk in front of the camera that she hid her face a lot, which actually worked pretty good because we didn't have a lot of shots to cut to, right? We were, again, filming with one camera, so we kind of had establishing shot and then a few close-ups of her. But that allowed me to edit back and forth a little bit and edit the conversation more. And I think it was easier than if she had been, talking directly to the camera, and it had been easier to see what she was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, Olympic school, eh?
Hangaim. Nafanya kanda.
In from the kind.
Azaji nyama. Nyama jaluma. Nyama jaluma.
This was so great too because we got a little moment of brevity, right? A little bit of a lighter moment. We see the family happy. Hopefully you connect even more to this family because we're dealing with a very serious topic, cancer, cervical cancer, that is often a death sentence in Malawi and in some countries. These are the scenes, although there's no direct relation between much of this scene and cervical cancer, right? These are the kind of scenes that help your audience connect to your film and really care about the characters and hopefully in turn care about the subject matter. So there we go. Then we cut to a wide and then we cut to another drone shot and we go into the next scene, which is about the doctor and her family and how she ended up working in Malawi. One thing, I've touched on this before in some of the other videos I've done on YouTube, but real quick, I just want to say, when you're dealing with nonprofits, with organizations, and you want to make a film about them or about something connected to them, I think it's really powerful if you can see how many steps away you can get from the organization and show that impact, right? So for this, it was the organization that helped the doctor move to Malawi and help pay for her salary. And so we see through this film, we have the organization, we have the doctor, then we have a step further, a nurse, then we have a step further, Alice and her family, her children and her husband. So another step. So we're like 4-ish steps removed from the organization, but it shows just how powerful the impact can be from the organization. And we're telling very specific stories about a very general subject. And I think that's one of the best ways to help connect to your audience. Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments? Ask down below. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you will watch some of my other videos. And thanks for watching.